Hey, welcome to the weekly podcast by Calvary Bible Church. My name is Jay. I'm on staff, actually one of the pastors here at Calvary. We are so glad you're tuning in. Though on the weekly, we just give you a heads up of what's coming up this week, a conversation about last week's sermon, helping connect the dots of your faith, and just giving you some inspirational, some joyous news that keeps you going this week. And this week we have we have two individuals that are just awesome individuals. We have the communication team, Laura and Tim, in the house. They're going to talk about the brand and the new identity we have here at Calvary. Let's jump into this conversation. These people are in charge of some really important ministry here at Calvary. They're behind the scenes usually. And today we have them in a conversation. And I look forward to you being blessed like I am by them. Hey, Tim and Laura, how's it going?
Hey, Jay, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
it's going well.
That's awesome. If you don't know Tim and Laura, you should go on to calvarybible.com/staff, see their profile pics, which they're in charge of. But they look, so you know who they are. You can find them in the lobby, or you can sort of like, oh yeah, I know that person. I don't know their voice, but I know that person. Go there and check that out. But Tim and Laura have been on the communication. Laura, you've been working at Calvary for 3 years now?
2 years.
2 years. That's awesome. And Tim, how long have you been at Calvary?
And I've been on staff on the communications team for 10 years this August.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
That's a big year. It's a big year. 10
is.
years is pretty important around here. That's awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourselves. Laura, you can go first. Tell us what you do outside of being on staff at Calvary.
All right. Well, I love being on staff at Calvary, and I'm the communication coordinator. But outside of work, I spend time with my family. I have 2 little boys that are 5 and 6, and my husband Noah is around Calvary from time to time too. And I think that's about it that you need to know about me.
Well, one thing that most people don't know about you is you are involved in a really important ministry that's not associated with Calvary. We do support them, but BSF, and just give us a highlight of what BSF is.
Yeah, so BSF is Bible Study Fellowship, and it's a great way to study God's Word, and it's a ministry that I've been part of for many years. I did have to take last year off just because of my workload and life load.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to go back and continue to study God's Word and be part of that study again.
That's really cool. And then Tim, tell us about yourself. Besides that, you're one of my favorite brother-in-laws.
One of them.
If you didn't know that.
I am the newest one, correct? Is that right?
That is very true. Yeah, that is
newest
correct.
brother-in-law.
Yeah. Tim married my sister-in-law. So that's how we're connected.
Yeah. And Jay actually brought my wife to Calvary and just said, hey, go to the young adults group a few years ago. So really cool. Who knew what the adventure was going to be that God had us on?
Totally.
So it's awesome to be on staff with you, Jay. And a little bit about me outside of my role in communications. I love playing the drums, playing a band in Denver. Haven't been able to do a lot in this season, but love that. Love going on mountain adventures. And Michelle and I, my wife, were in a really sweet season of living with Lindsay Billington and her husband Nate. Were in their basement apartment, and so it's really, really fun. We've been quarantining together, and it's been sweet.
So you have like a built-in community already.
Built-in community, yeah. We've been testing out home groups for the whole year. So
totally.
It's just like, hey, everyone should experience this. We're doing a home group.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's a really neat season. Now you've been on staff for 10 years. You've seen a lot of different things in the communication department over 10 years. A lot of technology change too, right?
Yeah.
From 10 years ago, like how churches communicate and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so much has changed. When I came on staff, we had some social media channels, but they were really, not even secondary, I'd say. It's just like, we have some social media channels just to be out there and to join what everyone else is doing. But they've really become, in 2020, essential to where people are and how we reach people and how we communicate. So there's the amount of digital channels has increased significantly since I've been on staff, and even just the importance of email and everything. Even creative arts and how we're creatively communicating what the pastors are preaching to people.
That's right. I mean, it's amazing if you just think about America in the last 10 years of what change has happened in the digital space. It's pretty impressive that you've lasted this long and you're passionate about it, and that you're always innovating in this season, in this department.
Yeah. And it's incredible, even in this crazy year of 2020, how we've all been able to be so connected, and that digital and online has become so essential, and people are still able to do everything from school to music lessons to you name it.
Yeah. Church or small group. Yeah. Totally. That's really cool, man. So today we have you on here because Calvary went through a process over the last year of creating and refreshing the brand that we see as Calvary. Now, I remember years ago when the first brand got revamped with the red guy. I don't know if he has a name. The Calvary
That's
man.
the most common name, the red guy.
The red guy.
There's some other names, but.
Yeah, and you came into this ministry and inherited that brand, because I knew the person before you who worked with John Boyle, and they created that red guy, and that the red that we see at Calvary, we know to be Calvary, right? Mm-hmm. So for those listeners who don't know what a brand is, can you just briefly give them a heads up of what is a brand?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a brand and a brand identity is really everything that represents who you are. So it's not only your logo, but it's also colors, typography, imagery, and especially your messaging and voice as an organization. And it's how do people know Calvary? That's our brand.
Totally. Some of the best brands in the world, we just instinctively know without even reading anything, like the Coca-Cola sign. We know that's where they sell Coke, right? Or we know what the taste is, even by seeing the logo. Or FedEx, you see the arrow that's in FedEx that is always moving forward. Brands are really important globally as well for humans to know what is what, right?
Yeah. And even one that I was thinking of recently is Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
That brand everyone's interacting with that, especially now where people are getting things delivered more than ever. And Amazon has a really cool logo and brand, and it's very simple, but it has that arrow and it's A to Z.
And it's a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much meaning behind it that can be really subtle, but it just communicates to the consumer.
Yeah, that's really true, man. That's interesting. So, Laura, I know you've been on staff for 2 years. Have you ever worked on staff at a church before this time?
No, this is my first time working on staff at a church.
Yeah, cool. So let me ask you then, why does a church need a brand identity? In the last 2 years, you've seen the church, you participated in the old brand, you've seen our community, but why would we need a brand?
Yeah,
identity?
So we're still the same Calvary. We're still the same people in the same church and everything, but Calvary's changed a little bit, and we just needed something that captured our mission and our vision a little better. So we've worked with a team to get that, and it describes us so well. You
like where it came out to be?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. You're in the communication department, but yeah. It's a really neat logo. It has some really warm colors. If listeners, if you haven't seen our brand, you should get to calvarybible.com. There's even a video showing you why and how it came to be. But it's a really cool, I like the blue and I like the white. Someone said, though, these are colors of Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks.
I have heard that.
We aren't picking any favorites around here.
That's funny.
Yep. It was going to be a color of some sort of sports team.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to copy a Colorado sports team.
Hey, we're going from the 49ers red to the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know. Both West Coast teams.
But you got the Broncos blue.
We had the Broncos blue.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Think of it that way.
So, Tim, why is it important for the local church to identify themselves from one another? with using brand and colors and logos and all those type of things?
Yeah, every local church is uniquely positioned in a different community, different context, and with a unique call from God of people to reach. And I think that's so significant in creating a brand identity and why different local churches should have different identities, because they're trying to reach different people that God has placed in their path. And there's some churches that maybe in just because of where they are contextually aren't as multi-generational as us. Maybe it's really their mission is for 20 somethings and they're, somewhere where that's like the main majority of the population. So I think that's a really incredible thing about the local church is God uses the local church to accomplish his mission in so many different ways.
Totally. As a thing that keeps going through my head in this conversation is that every church has a brand. Some churches have a really poor brand of like what represents them that like limits people from ever checking them out or stepping in based upon an outdated logo or outdated idea or color or mission statement, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think as a comms team over the last few years especially, we've done a lot of things to take communications to the next level and a lot of our visuals, channels, things like that. And the brand, since it was an older look, I think it was a little bit confusing for guests. Like, oh, the website is new and updated and graphics are new, but the logo looks old. And so we really wanted to represent who we really are to people that are stepping foot into our communities.
Totally. It makes sense. Like if you think of like John the Baptist, his whole mission was to make the way to Jesus as straight as possible. Like that's his mission, right? So a brand identity does the same thing. It makes the step into this community of Jesus followers as clear as possible so that people don't get hung up on a brand or a color or a logo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So let's talk about the process. I know it's been about a year that y'all started talking, getting a team together, but share sort of behind the scenes of what goes into making establishing this brand. It's just not like last week you came up and said, hey, I got a cool idea for this logo. Let's do it next week. Like it's a really long process. So share behind the scenes what happened, what took place.
Yeah, sure. We started about last November. We were having conversations about this time last year, but about last November we partnered with an agency that came in and really helped us look at who we are. And we already knew who we were, but I think it just helped us identify a little better what direction we were going and what we needed for our new brand and logo. So they were super helpful, and our team was able to process everything. And then we had a designer start working with us after we went through this first process with the Tim. What was the Ted's title?
Well, the first kind of process or day was a brand maker workshop.
There we go.
It was really like a day.
So what do you do in that
brand.
day?
Yeah.
What do you do during that day?
Yeah. So it was really, I think, invigorating for us because we didn't get to any of the colors, imagery, logo, as Laura's saying, with the designer on that first day. And it's easy to, hey, let's just make a mark and a new logo and this is what we have in our minds. But we really just talked about who Calvary is and do we want to double down on our mission and vision. And so lead team and communications creative, we were all looking each other in the eye saying, oh yeah, we want to double down. Like we've never been more about our mission and vision and who is kind of that target. We're like, what is Calvary about? Like, what are our strengths? What do people say about Calvary? How do they perceive us? And is that something we want to be perceived? Is that true and accurate? And so we had just a lot of great conversations and even identified that those people that we want to reach and put names to them and then thought through, okay, getting in their shoes, what would those people, how do they perceive Calvary and what kinds of imagery or colors are going to be exciting for them or something that they'd want to jump into in Boulder, Erie, and Thornton.
Man, that sounds like a really long day of conversations, but it sounds pretty inspiring though too, to think that clearly about who we are and how we're trying to reach people. It's pretty neat. So you go through this day, You work with a designer. Like, how many mock-ups did you see? How much, like, meeting behind the scene? You're like, we like this, we don't like this. You know, like, this isn't really us. Good try. Go back to the drawing board. How much of that happens behind the scene?
Yeah, we had an awesome designer. He really was able to capture Calvary and the people at Calvary so quickly. We had basically 2 meetings with him, and we were able to land with our current logo. And then there were fine-tuning meetings following, but we were all on board and just kind of were able to look at, I think he presented us with 3 options, and I think everybody on the team unanimously decided on what we wanted, and we were able to give a little bit of feedback like, oh, this would look a little more like us, or this would be a little more accurate. And so.
That's really cool. Thanks for doing all that hard work. That's a long year to put in that much work and have that many conversations. You know?
Yeah, it was as Laura was saying, it was really cool that we all felt like that one of the mark options was, this is Calvary. And then there were a lot of discussions that came out of that. And because even on a design team, everyone sees things differently and has different opinions, but we were really, unified on this is the mark, and even this is the feel, because they presented 3 very different options. So it was really clear to us that, this is Calvary. Let's move forward with this mock-up of this mark. And then it became the mark that you see everywhere today.
Yeah, it's super cool to hear behind the scenes what's going on. Let's pause here and go to what Laura calls a commercial break. Hey, Calvary, if you're new to the podcast or new to Calvary, we would love for you to check out calvarybible.com, get to know us, explore the website. We're talking about the new brand today, and that's no better opportunity to go to our website, see what's new at Calvary. If you've been at Calvary for the last 30 years, you should check out our website as well. See what type of events that are happening this fall. I know 2020 is a unique year, and we have some unique plans that God has given us for 2020. One of those is home groups, and we would love for everyone at Calvary to be known to know others this season, especially in the COVID year. So go to calvarybible.com /@home and find out home groups and how to participate in person, online. We would love for you to have a step into community this fall. Here at Calvary, we're building Christ-centered communities fully devoted to loving God and loving others. And we think home groups is a great way in which we're going to accomplish this mission in 2020. We don't want you to miss out on what God's going to do this fall. So go check out calvarybible.com /home. Let's get back into the conversation with Laura and Tim. It's a fascinating conversation about brand and our identity at Calvary. And in this section, we're going to dive in now explaining why we did what we did with the brand. Why is it so important for us to know this as Calvary people, so that when we see this brand, we know our mission. We know what we're about and what we're focused on in this coming season, in the coming years. And let's pray together that Calvary is stronger than ever, not only with the new brand, not only in 2020, but years to come, that we are faithfully living up to God's expectations, His story, and the incredible journey He's inviting us on. So let's jump back into the conversation. All right, so we went through sort of the process, which is really fascinating. Thanks for sharing. I mean, it's really cool to hear, even from a staff perspective, of what's been behind the scenes. Sort of explain why we came up with the logo that we have and the colors that we do now make Calvary.
Yeah, so the logo really was inspired from that brand workshop that first day in November, and it was some of the things that we sort of targeted that was something we wanted to aim for at Calvary. So it's lowering barriers to young families, being for leaders, being advocates in the community, putting relationships and people above just programming and calendaring. So this was like sort of that center. This is what Calvary is about, and that, everything, kind of any ministry, this is like what we're all about. So I think it really started there for the design and was born out of that.
Very cool. And knowing Calvary, we're a multi-generational church with 3 campuses now, actually possibly 4 online campus. Is a legitimate campus these days with so many people there. So you have to consider a lot of aspects of how to communicate our vision. So walk me through sort of the elements of the logo itself. I see a C, I see a dot, I see an arrow. Explain those to us.
Yeah, so we started with a C, which really represents Christ-centered communities. And the C, and that represents our mission to build Christ-centered communities of people fully devoted to loving God and loving others. And then that C really surrounds our vision, what we feel like God has called us to do and where God has called us to go. So it's make disciples, empower leaders, multiply churches. So everyone at Calvary, the Christ-centered community, is all focused on this, inner element of that C. And then the arrow really implies this momentum and going out to reach people in our communities.
Yeah, it's forward thinking, forward leaning, forward looking, praying for what's next.
Yeah.
What's God doing in our world?
And one way I like to think of it, just as a summary, is this mark really represents the heart of our mission and then the movement of carrying out the vision. And that's what's so cool, and one of the things that we're really excited about as a team and as a staff, that this new mark represents the mission and vision. And the old mark was great, and it represented our members' core commitments in the 2000s, and it still is our members' core commitments, but this is the mission and vision of Calvary, and really what we want the community to see when they first experience anyone on staff or see a digital channel.
Cool. And Laura, what's the circle I see that's in this logo? What does that represent?
That's our vision. That's what we already have going on at Calvary.
Yeah. And what is our vision? I'm going to put y'all both on the spot.
The vision is make disciples, empower leaders, multiply churches.
Yeah, that's right. And those are on our walls at every campus. Mm-hmm. Those are things that we've been talking about since I've been here for 5 years now. And it's about time that our brand actually encapsulates that revisioning of what Calvary, because Calvary's been around a long time, and there's been faithful people for a long time who are committed to Christ, Christ-centeredness, for 132 years now, 133, right? We're like approaching the mid-30s of 100 years. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think what I love about our mission and our vision is both of them are both internal as well as external. Like even building Christ-centered communities, modifying the mission statement, to me that speaks more of, we're not just building a Christ-centered community, we're building Christ-centered communities and inviting people into that community. And then the mission statement of make disciples, empower leaders, multiply churches, we're making disciples, empowering leaders inside of our community, and people that are members and attendees, but it's also like making disciples is going out, going to Thornton, going to our home groups and online, and welcoming people into our communities.
Yeah, it's Matthew 28. It's living the Great Commission. And I think this logo encapsulates. I think it's really cool how it works that way.
Yeah. And what I love about this logo, my favorite thing, is if you rotate it, you see a location pin.
Or
image.
A person.
Yes, and a person inside that location pin.
Oh, cool.
So what's so cool about that is that it's like Christ-centered communities. Like we're about Christ-centered communities, and we're about the people.
Yeah.
Like inside that, the hidden element of this logo is the person. We're about reaching people and building Christ-centered communities.
Totally, man. I love that. That sums up what we really are about at Calvary. Just you hit it on just nailed it out of the park. Yeah, good job. I'm mixing my metaphors though. You hit a home run.
Hit a home run.
You
out
nailed.
Of the park. Yeah.
You hammered I don't know. Yeah, anyways, we're moving past that. Cool.
And you asked about the colors as well. And the colors, it's so different than our old colors. And part of it was just this new, fresh look, and even trying to capture some of just like the outdoor culture in Colorado of the green and the blue and the light blue. And it's just really fresh. And for us, it was really like, these are really inviting colors, and like, come in and we're welcoming you into our community.
Yeah, totally. Makes sense. So it gets past just the brand and this great story and how we're forming our this mission and vision of Calvary. What are you two excited for this fall? Like, what's on your horizons that you're just like, I think this is going to be really cool?
Home groups, of course.
Whatever.
No, I think it'll be really neat to see a lot of what we've been working on implemented in the building, and even outside on the lawn. We got to see it during the lawn services, and now it's going to be going into homes. The home groups are going to be equipped with packages and welcome packets for new people, and I think it'll be great to just see the old new Calvary.
Yeah, totally.
And with this new brand, we're part of our new identity, and some of the messaging that we're saying is we're one church, multiple communities. So I'm really excited for that to play out initially with home groups this fall, just because it's really because of COVID that we had to make this shift in a ministry model and phase. But what an incredible foundation to have one church, multiple communities. And then I'm looking forward to the day where we gather as multiple communities in larger gatherings like Boulder, Erie, Thornton, and those multiple communities come together. And then when we have normal services in the future, it's still one church, multiple communities, and you're with your community, and then you gather with the larger community, and, as the body of Christ and all of these cities that we've been called to go to.
That's right. And it's not like, we've said this a couple of times already, but it's not like we're changing our vision and mission at Calvary. We're just freshening it up to what we've always been about, which is making disciples, empowering leaders, multiplying churches, and really building these communities that are really centered up around Christ. And that's really important in this season, especially in the COVID season, when there's so much unknown from day to day and week to week of what's going on in the world. And knowing that Jesus knew this, he knew what Calvary needed to do in 2020. He knew that we were going to go into home groups long before we ever did. And he knows what we'll need to sustain us in the season. And a brand, thanks to your hard work, your dedication, your organization, a brand that really will carry us focused on that mission, probably better than we've ever been at before, right?
Right.
Cool. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate both of you. It's so much fun to work with you, be on staff at Calvary together. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Hey, Calvary, I just want to sum up today just a unique journey of hearing how and why the new brand at Calvary is really just an element of what we've always been about. Just really cool to see that even in this season, even in this year, that God is still working. He's still in charge. Let's remember that from day to day. That's really important for us to continue to put ourselves in front of the Lord, the sustainer of our faith, who knows what the future holds because he holds the future. So let's continue to look towards him, continue to get in community, continue to trust that the Lord is up to something really good this season. Thanks for the conversation on the weekly. You can check out old weeklies at calvarybible.com/podcast, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.